So unfortunately, that will be the last of my Spanish for the evening. But please do let me know in the chat if you're having any difficulties understanding English or if you would prefer me to slow down. But welcome everybody to UXDX Latin America. Our first Q&A, as Jovi just mentioned, is with Juan Pablo Vildosola, who is the head of product at GeoPages. So welcome, Juan Pablo.
Welcome, Rory. Nice to meet you, and I'm very excited to be here with you and all the old folks here as the speakers.
Excellent. So we'll jump right in. I watched your video, really interesting case study. I love the kind of one thing I personally haven't had to experience is the hardware side of things, because my career has typically just been on the software side of things. So my first question is really about what influence do you think that additional hardware layer had? Do you think that made things a bit more complex than a typical kind of software project? Or do you think those boundaries actually helped because they limited your scope of what you could work with?
Well, it's a good question because I started my UX career working from day one with hardware. So I didn't have a previous experience with a lot of previous experience with UX UI of digital interfaces. So I cannot tell the difference, but I do know what good things brought to me as the basic things about usability and understanding the boundaries of the device itself. So when you know that you have to make work a digital interface with a hardware interface, you have your constraints, but the good thing that you can reinforce the UX concepts that you've learned and put it to work in another plane that is not as common as you talked earlier in UX UI for digital interfaces. So for me, it's natural, but I think that can bring experience to other who has worked for a year or two or many years with digital interfaces, and suddenly they have a project involving hardware, which is very exciting. And I really think that makes you a more complete designer, like the experience as an overall, and not just focusing in one interaction. So that's for me the best thing I can say about physical interfaces and the mix between two worlds.
Excellent. And you gave a great example of having to go and see, to kind of experience how people were using the product in real life. Do you think that is something that hardware has that software doesn't? Because a lot of software is, you have all of the analytics in the code, and you can have Hotjar to do kind of tracking of user mice and stuff like that. Do you think with hardware, it's more important to do the go and see?
It's definitely, in my experience, it's more important, but I have, in my experience, what you learn about the situation, the way you grab your device is something that I think is very important, even if you don't have a physical interface to interact with. So also in the chat, the talk you mentioned earlier, you have the tap to phone experience when you have to put a card in the other side, and I think this is something to design on this tool. If you think about WhatsApp, which is very common in Latin America, where you see the people like grabbing the phone in a particular way that never existed before WhatsApp, or I didn't see before. So you have a handling, a usability experience, some way that you grab the phone that is particular to this product and is influenced by where the record audio button is placed, and I don't know why so many people that movement. I think this is worth research for research. This, or how you take a selfie, and then you enter a dimension is grabbing your device, even though you are designing for digital interfaces. So I think there's a lot to it, and it's important, even though you don't have a device like we use, but the device itself, a cell phone, a tablet, or a computer, it's already itself a researchable thing or element in the ecosystem of the experience. Yeah.
Excellent. No, that makes a lot of sense. And what did everybody on your team go out to those kind of go and see sessions, or was it limited to one or two people?
Well, it's it is definitely it started to be a discovery process started by myself alone in a small business. I think they didn't. Most of the people working the project didn't see the importance of this earlier. So I started to do that. I encourage other people to do so. But a few or many times I encountered devs working in the application or the device itself telling me, oh, I the other day someone accepted a payment with our POS, and I see, well, it's quite okay. So there's a reward in seeing your product or the result of your product on the street, on the mass market, that goes beyond the research itself. So when that happened, I encourage people to go, and more people get involved by itself, going, hey, then you can experience the things that you were working on as a customer. So go there, this address, try to buy something and see for yourself. So it started with me, but later it was more common for the people involved to go to see that places and understand and live the experience by themselves.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm a massive fan of getting everybody to experience how the users interact, because everybody sees it from different angles and picks up on different things as well. Just on that point that you made there about some of the devs were a little bit hesitant at the start, you mentioned how important it was that you got the devs in early and got their ideas and their insights. How difficult was that? Because on two angles I want to ask. So one is, I've been in a lot of companies where they don't let the devs onto a project until it's got the scope locked and until they've got a design in place and things like that. So it can be difficult from that side. And then a second problem is sometimes the devs aren't interested in doing that. The people themselves, they don't want to do it. So how did that play out for you?
Yeah, it's a very good point. I started as an like spreading that idea that we have to involve the people earlier in the process. So it wasn't easy. It's still, I still struggle with this in new teams for them to get involved. The devs are very task focused, that I have to do this, and they tend to get deep in what they are doing, but not seeing the overall process or what's sides of this. So the first thing I can tell you that first there is like it's like they don't want to do it, or they don't feel it's their work. But once they experiment this, they feel involved. Is, hey, I show you some flows or some screens. What do you think? And not what do you think to ask, hey, how can you build this? Because this is the first step. Like, hey, we came up with the design thing with a couple of flows, or I want this button to do this, and so. and the account with this, oh no, I think it's too it's a lot of work. That's the first point. But the second stage of this is, hey, what do you think? We did this because we've learned that the user might need this step in that process, for example. And when this kind of involvement happens, they really like it. And I think the work that goes next to this involvement, and after talking this in workshops and work doing this way, it turns in a better involvement, in a happier process, and I think the overall quality improves a lot. I've seen that they came with great ideas, and not only devs. I always talk about QAs. For me, QAs are great allies, and many QAs can be a great product analyst too, or get feedback or input about product, because they know the product better than anyone almost. So it was difficult. It's still difficult also for QAs. One time the QA leader told me, hey, don't bring the guys to the discovery sessions, because they have a lot of work to do, testing tasks and testing user stories. Please, they are like overloaded. I said, well, yeah, okay, but I really think they can get a lot of these meetings, and also the testing process would be a lot easier if they would be involved in the first place. They can spot something that is not written in the task earlier. So devs and QAs, it's been a good experience, but it's hard. You have to make the culture to evangelize about it a lot, but I think it pay off really well.
Excellent. And do you think next time it will be easier now because people are bought in?
Yeah, I definitely think so. But you have to make like a little case, and for if one project you work with them and you make a case and say, hey, we work together, and this is how they doing a retro, and this the people was excited and work more focused, or have more commitment with the project. So you can start to make a case to show the other teams to implement this in a similar way. I think this is the best. This, and one thing that we didn't talk about in my talk, but it's hand to hand with the research, is working with metrics. That is another whole world that shows why we are doing something and how it's going once we launch. So this is very important too, and it's in the same like path of involvement in the discovery process and iteration.
Excellent. And we're going to be jumping very deep into metrics later today, because Patricia gave a great talk on that. So
yeah,
I know
I've seen
we're
it.
A little...
It's really nice.
Excellent. We're a little bit ahead of time, but we did start early, so I'm going to try spread the extra time amongst all of the people. So thank you very much,
Sure.
Juan Pablo, and Daphne, I think, is next. Thank you, Juan.